Hello, friends. Chris Corsi here. I want to welcome you to the Relational Skills in Real Life podcast. I'm glad you're here. Today's topic is on how relational skills can impact your marriage. Marriages are one of the best places where we can grow, use, and practice relational skills. Our families are the best garden, the best soil for us to grow relational skills. Because what happens is we have opportunities to interact with people, we have opportunities to practice exercises and to notice the effects. And so we're going to focus on a marriage, but this material applies everywhere. This applies to all of our relationships ultimately, but we're going to really look at how a marriage provides the rich, nutrient-rich soil where relational skills can blossom. Very excited about our guests today because we have two friends who have been learning and practicing relational skills for quite some time. They started out when they were dating, then they got engaged, then they were married. And you know what? It's been fun to watch my friends be able to use relational skills and to watch the changes as they've been able to embrace relational skill practice in their lives. Now, before we go into this, I want to share a little bit about why it's helpful to not only learn about relational skills and understand the theory and hear the stories like we're doing with this podcast, but to practice relational skills. You see, your brain has two primary processors. We have a slow track processor, which focuses on words and information and teaching and understanding. Then we have a fast track processor where we practice relational skills. We practice exercises. We have experiential training. And you know what? One of the things about relational skills is we can talk about relational skills, but ultimately you want to practice relational skills. You want to train that fast track system in your brain so that you learn these relational habits that you'll use in your life and in all your relationships. So ideally, we have the information to understand relational skills, but ultimately we want the practice, the training where we are able to interact with other people, interact with the living God, and we insert and grow these relational skills into the fabric of our character. Now we move on to our friends Eric and Jiayan, who have been to Thrive, and they have a fascinating story about how this journey has impacted their lives. Let's listen in to what they have to say.
I got introduced to Thrive Today through my wife, which we were not married at the time. We were dating. So as we were dating, I watched her doing manual journaling. I watched her, she would share with me these things, and I would slowly just kind of nod my head and say, oh, yeah, okay, cool. And slowly but surely, I just got exposed and started digging into the material. And at that point, I ended up going to Thrive training with my fiance at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I worked at Y1 counseling department. So I was just doing lots of research on life model, all the things. And then I heard about Thrive training. And then so finally I found a partner. So I went. But I think after practicing like Shalom My Body, appreciation and stuff like that, I feel the sky is more blue and people are more enjoyable. And me and my husband, we practice appreciation every day, and I think it really benefits our relationship. Just to know that the person that you love really appreciate you every day. And we started to do the nonverbal appreciation a couple weeks ago. And it was very impactful. We both felt it sink deeper than just use words.
Yeah, I would say definitely at first, the things that we practiced the most were quieting and appreciation, which we still do practice. It's come kind of like a daily habit for us, which has been amazing. And then I think practicing God's sight in our marriage specifically, and also being able to dig a little bit deeper with feeling and expressing emotions within nonverbals has been deeply impactful. Going through Thrive training, especially we went to track one when we were engaged, and that was really impactful for us setting ourselves up for marriage, because it kind of put us on similar lines of understanding and communication. And it helped me to learn attuning and being able to reflect some stuff back to my wife inside of her, emotions. Yeah, because I didn't really have the skills to really handle that in the right way before. And then as we've been married and as we've grown inside of our relationship, I feel like the Thrive training and the skills that we've learned have just accelerated our marriage in depth and in intimacy, which has just been amazing. And now learning about child development stages, maturity levels, attachment styles, all this stuff, I feel like has really set us up for success when looking at having a child, which we're due in
next
about
month.
a month. So very exciting time. But I feel much more equipped looking at what it's going to take to raise a child and what a child needs and when they need it. I feel like that's just invaluable information.
All right, friends. Eric and Jiayan have a wonderful testimony here about how they've grown in their awareness of relational skills, but specifically how they've practiced. I really like how Eric started out by just sharing how Jiayan was the first to introduce him to the materials. She was learning and starting to practice relational skills, especially with Emmanuel journaling. And so Eric was watching as Jiayan practiced and shared what she was learning, and this started to rub off onto him. This started to influence their relationship in ways that was life-giving. And so he started to practice and learn about this stuff that she was growing and practicing. So how fun to hear what this process looked like. And they give us a plethora of helpful tools for what really helped them grow. They highlighted how appreciation, right? Remembering joy, remembering the good stuff really impacted them. And they even mentioned nonverbal appreciation practices. So ultimately, as you practice appreciation and you practice a lot of these relational skills, we can also practice nonverbal versions of these skills, which actually deepens their impact in our fast track processor. But just listening to the power of appreciation, quieting, being able to quiet, calm, take a breather, learning to get relational and learning to recognize when they slip out of relational mode. That's a big one because our marriages provide lots of opportunities to practice appreciation and to practice getting relational and to practice quieting and calming. But they hit the nail on the head when they talked about God's sight, seeing some of what God sees in their marriage. Few skills impact a marriage like learning to see some of what God sees, getting heaven's perspective on our spouse or maybe on the problems that we're navigating, or what Jesus is doing as it relates to our closest relationships. And they mentioned maturity, right? This is the roadmap to recognize strengths and weaknesses and to know about attachment styles. This template that we develop early in life that creates patterns of connection. And you know what? Patterns of connection are going to show up in our marriages. Few things are going to show up in our marriages like our attachment styles and specifically our attachment wounds. And they made the investment and they came to thrive. So, in other words, after practicing and learning and growing, eventually they got to a point where they were ready for kind of this intensive training. And not everybody's going to be able to make it to a 5-day training, but it was fun to hear their perspective on how this impacted them, especially for Eric to be able to better attune with Jiayan. These are big changes, friends, and I want to encourage you today that a little bit of practice goes a long way. If you can make it to the 5-day trainings, that's great. And if you can't, that's okay, because there's a lot of really good resources that you can learn because the goal is understand it with the material with the slow track, but practice with the fast track processor. So we need that practice and that interaction, whether it's with our spouse, whether it's with our friends, whether it's with our small group, whether it's with our children. Lots of opportunities, friends. And what we just need to do is set aside a few minutes, a little bit of time, some windows for practice. And so the good news is we all can grow and apply relational skills in our marriages and our closest relationships. Ultimately, there's no better place to start than right now in our marriage, in our family, because these provide those golden opportunities to practice relational skills with repetition and then to notice what happens as you practice these skills. So the 4 Habits of Joyful Marriages is a great resource if you're in a marriage and you'd like to practice this or even using it as a marriage group. Great great resource, easy introduction to several relational skills and lots of good exercises. And if you're really up for like the big investment, then come to Thrive. Join us for the in-person trainings, which is designed to really instill these relational skills into the fabric of your character so that you will use these skills on the good days and especially the hard days. So friends, may this be the start of something good for you today.